It shook me, eh? I'm just carrying on a bit. You're an animal. Whether you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your favourite podcast platform, welcome back to the Torq podcast. Good. All right. Welcome back. Guest number 2 for 2025, Jeff.
Yes, mate. How exciting. 2 guests. We're just kicking the door in on 2025, mate.
That's it. Peaking. Hopefully we're not peaking early anyway.
We mentioned this bloke back in, I think it was episode 4 of the Torq podcast. And we kind of said way back then that, yeah, we'll get you on. And you were just like, yeah, keen. And we just haven't got around to it. But we're turning a new leaf, mate.
That's
Yeah,
it.
these things happen.
So we got Aiden Stampalia in. Bit of a legend in the Burnout game.
Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe in my own right.
He's the Indiana Jones of the automotive world, at least in Perth anyway, I think. He didn't bring his man satchel, but, you know, he gets around a bit.
That's it. You're a bit of a man after our own heart, but for those who don't know you, Aiden, give us a quick rundown. Who are you, mate?
Yeah, just a kind of self-taught backyarder that gives it his best and tries to mix it with the big car builders and big workshops on a lot smaller budget, really, is the best way of putting it.
It's honourable.
An Aussie battler. We love it.
It's a noble thing to undertake.
Yeah, it's kind of always trying to do more for less. And yeah, between my group of mates, there's quite a few talented people. So kind of just all of our cars are a reflection of us just trying to showcase what we can achieve. Just a bunch of mates putting cars together, really.
That is the go. That's what's really appealing for me anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's good to see what you can produce with, you know, you don't have to have a blank checkbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, people find it real interesting, me going and getting cars out of the bush and all of that, and think, oh, wow, that's so cool doing that. No, I just don't have enough money to go and buy the parts, so
Yeah.
you just go get them out the bush.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about that a little bit later on, but I guess let's start off with how you first got into cars. We've sort of run into yourself and your brothers down at the Motorplex in the past, so it's you're certainly not an orphan in this.
No.
How did it all come about for you?
Grew up around it all with my old man. Basically, since my whole family has owned old Holdens since I was a little kid, and yeah, Dad had a HZ Ute with a big block Chev, and you know, just kind of the thing that has done it for me and made me how I am with building cars and giving absolutely everything a shot, whether it be engine building, panel work, fabrication, is I watched my old man build his HZ Ute and everything was done at home in the shed. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but it was the best that he could do. And, you know, he tubbed it, 4-link and everything. And then on the other hand was my uncle. He worked at Performance Modifications in Osborne Park as a machinist and tuned people's drag cars, mechanical injection and that. And he built his pro stock car in his shed at home and painted it there and did absolutely everything. Everyone in my family's always done everything themselves, and that's how I grew up. Just doesn't matter if it's the best, do the best you can do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just grown up with it my whole life, and I was kind of destined for it, really.
What was the first project you sunk your teeth into? Was it one that you worked on with your old man, or was it one that you tried to fly the coop yourself?
Yeah, that would be, I've ruined heaps of cars learning, heaps. And the first car that, looking back now, that I ruined would have been my brother and I, with the help of our old man, we started doing a VK. And yeah, then when I first got my license, that kind of got put on the back burner, and I got a HSV Manta, and that was my first car. And yeah, again, like, you know, young dude, big dreams, no money. cut it up, put a like 4-link in it and tubs, and looking back now, it was like the worst tub job ever. Like, oh, it was horrendous. And ended up with a cage and that, and then other projects like my Turbo LS VN came along, and then that got put on the back burner, and worried about the VN. And looking back, like, people look at how, I guess I'm pretty good at building cars now. Like, people don't see the cars you've ruined and stuffed up along the way, you know, like, so not all glory. Like, you know, you make that many mistakes and that many stuff ups along the way.
Isn't that the beautiful part about Instagram, though? Like, you know, you can choose to just put up the picture of the nice things.
Yeah. You just got to be scared not to fuck it up, really, don't you? That's what I've sort of learnt over the years. You get too self-conscious on wanting it to be perfect, like the guys that do it for a living or whatever. I'm sort of like, you look at my car now, and I've given pretty much everything a go on that, learnt heaps of new stuff. Yeah, it doesn't look that good, but it doesn't look that bad either. You know what I mean? You can get away with some stuff that's not perfect, and you hardly notice it. Like, I painted that engine bay, and it's got fish eyes like all through the paint in the bay, but you can't even hardly tell. So
well, no one's looking at the fish eyes, man. They're looking at that Group A manifold.
Yeah, so
100%.
Yeah, it's good to get in and just have a crack.
Yeah. So we're talking about the cars that you go out bush to collect. This is a recurring trend for you. I've seen this many, many times. You post up a story and you're coming from somewhere that's just covered in red dirt with some piece of shit on a trailer with no wheels and no doors and all this sort of stuff. Give us a bit of a rundown on how this sort of dream came to be, or how the chase started for you when you were looking for these old treasures.
The most publicly known one would definitely be my HG Monaro. Looking back, that was the dump. It'll forever be the dumbest one, but we drove 7,500 kilometre round trip, myself and my mate Liam Robertson, into the Tanami desert, basically in the Northern Territory, off a photo that we saw on Instagram from 6 months before. And after driving through the night, and like, you know, we had patrol breakdowns and spent the night in Halls Creek, had to weld the tyre rack back on the trailer and do the wheel bearings on the patrol, and then driving hours down the Tanami track and finally seeing the Manaro roofline in the distance. That was a pretty surreal feeling, and
would
dug
have
it
been
out.
cheering, eh? That would have just got you boys pumped.
There was no guarantees at that point, was there? Like,
No. Whenever you go to do it, it's you're always on edge. Like, it's a pretty cool feeling. Like, and then the latest kind of one, I've got HK Kingswood that I'm building. Went out. I've known of this other car and actually bought it off the local Indigenous people a couple of years ago, and I knew it had no rust kind of thing, and it's been sitting out past Laverton for a couple of years, but it's like Laverton's like a 30-hour round trip, so I've put it off for a long time. And then a mate of mine showed me photos at work of one out in the bush near Mount Magnet, and that's only 4 hours each way kind of thing, so I was more inclined to go check that one out. Got out there and literally walked up to the car, and it was just toast.
Yeah.
And turned around, there's an XT Falcon there that was perfect kind of thing. So, it was, that's more arse than class there. That was no skill involved in that one. So, loaded the Falcon up and dropped it off at Subaru Falcon Records the next day.
Right on.
So, definitely more than paid for the trip.
Yeah.
And then,
Is there any sort of indication on how long these things have been sitting for? It'd be hard to gauge, right? Or do you get stories down the pub that night when you're grabbing a feed before you head home?
Well, it's funny you say that because, with the Monaro, I'd heard that many stories of, like, people seeing it, like, over the years and stuff like that. And actually, someone commented on the photo of it and said, like, they had these old photos and they'd track them down. I hounded them for it, and then eventually they came through with the goods. And the Monaro had been out there. These photos were from 1982.
Holy shit.
So
it's not even that old of a car at that point.
It was only 11 years old. And you're like, how is
it's crazy
this?
that it would have been in good nick back then.
Yeah.
Like in 80, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
surprised someone didn't grab it when they really started going up in value in like the 2000s or whatever.
But if you compare that to cars today, that's the equivalent, like, you know, that's the equivalent, what's an 11-year-old? That's like a Series 2 VE, like, clubby or something, like.
Well, 11 years old, that's 2013. That would have been VF territory,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
put it into comparison. Like,
Yeah.
a
They just
V8
left it out in the bush.
just left it there. Like,
What?
yeah, it's hard to fathom it, eh?
It is. It really is.
But it's also hard to think that, you know, old Holdens were getting bogged up in the 80s.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's the equivalent of like a VF now being rusty, like having hell bad rust.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess, you know, you look back then and you look at the kind of houses that we had, a lot, particularly in WA, there was a lot of state housing. There were no carports, there were no garages, you know, you had a dirt driveway and they just sat out in the weather.
Yeah.
Like, from brand new.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pretty, it was, you know, you're a pretty baller if you had a nice shed out the back that you could put a car in.
Yeah, and as well,
We're
like
kind of spoilt now.
the cars were built by humans.
I was
like,
going to say the engineering back then, like they wouldn't have been
Yeah.
super concerned about rust and warranty
No.
and all that. You know what I mean? Like
if it was Friday Arvo and, you know, you've just had the next Monaro roll down the production line for you to paint and you got to be at the pub by 5, that Monaro is sitting in bare metal for the weekend.
Yeah.
So if you got a like weekend Monaro, like, you know, yours was rusty.
Yeah.
Realistically, like that's how it would have went.
yeah,
So what did that Monaro have when you... I'm sure we'll be able to find photos of when you picked it up and whatnot. We'll be able to put them up. But what did it have? Like, how was it sitting?
It had about 1.5 tons of dirt in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we literally...
On the shovel for a while?
Yeah, we dug it out for a while and then we tried digging around it and then we were trying to tow it forward with the patrol and literally we ended up breaking the engine mounts because we had a strap around the engine mount like on the Manaro and just yanking it like with a TD42 patrol and it would not move. It was just like it
Stuck.
became one with the
yeah.
ground.
That's it. It was
kind of
it was
thing.
forming back to its
Yeah.
original.
It was
So-
returning back to the earth.
Yeah.
We jacked it up and like so it broke the seal of the ground and then even with the patrol like just like dropping the clutch and just going forward and yanking it, it was only moving a couple 100 mil at a time.
Wow.
It was that heavy and yeah, in the end Vaughan Galbraith from Calmac Smash Repairs in Mandurah, he did all the body work to it in the end and yeah, the stuff that he does panel work wise, I'll hands down say he is the best panel beater in WA. Just phenomenal. The craftsmanship and all of that. Like you can look at that car and hardly know it's been apart. And yeah, it's phenomenal.
Mint.
Absolutely incredible.
So you roll up to the car at the start. I want to get, what's your process of, are we going to go for it or are we going to fucking turn around and go home? Like, what are you looking at on the car specifically to tell you, all right, this is going to be worth all the effort of digging it out? Are you just looking for the like panels? Like, what are you actually looking for to tell you whether it's going to be a worthwhile deal or not? Or are you just committed and you'll figure that out later? Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, just roll with the punches, really.
Yeah.
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 It's either
I
gonna
suppose
be
you're already there anyway, aren't
Yeah.
you?
It's either going to be a really cool garden art or it's going to be a resto piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So I got it back and I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. And then my mate Robbo's, he said about how he was going to sell his Turbo LS HJU, at the time, and to buy a Manaro. And I already had another Manaro at the time and a couple of other cars. And I said, well, you know, you did the trip just as much as me. Like, so he bought it off me for what it owed me. And then he enlisted Vaughan to do all the panel work to it. And then he needed to sell the car and he did the exact same again and sold it back to me for what it owed him for Vaughan doing the metal work. And then I assembled the front end and, you know, did a diff for it. And yeah, just have slowly been piecing it together kind of on the side. But yeah, it's, I think 2018, I think it was, 2019 we went and got that car.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while.
It's crazy how quick the years start ticking over, isn't it?
We're old now, yeah.
Yeah, we're the old guys.
Yeah.
So with that one, am I right in saying you got another like Kingswood or a Premier and basically used that as the base and then grafted the Monaro stuff onto
so
it? How did that work?
It was real funny. So Vaughan got Robbo to get another, he got a HG wagon shell and then cut all the body off. And then Vaughan was, I remember we were there on the Saturday and Vaughan's like, yeah, we'll cut all the body off and then like put it all on that. Yep, sweet. Like helping him cut the body off and then cut the floor out of the Manaro. And then I remember we were standing there and then Robbo was like, so you've done this before, eh, Vaughan? Like, done it like this? He's like, no, never.
Mint.
Oh, yeah. Cool. And by this stage, there's a wagon with no body on it and there's a Monaro with no floor in it. So, yeah, there was not really any turning back.
Fuck.
Yeah, my favourite part of that car is the boot. The boot was completely folded under itself, like beyond... Like I had unbolted it and threw it in a scrap pile, and Vaughan has fixed that boot, and you cannot see any hammer marks on it at all, and yet it still has all the bullet holes and all the patina.
Wow, got it back to like a file finish, but not.
Yeah, but you can't tell a hammer's ever touched it.
Amazing.
And it was fully folded under itself and just bent up in every way, shape, and form.
That's talent.
Yeah.
That is like, it takes a very special individual to do that kind of stuff. I've watched a few people online, same thing, not the same thing, but taking like a very heavily bogged up panel that was obviously badly damaged way back when, and then just massaging the metal back to where it once was. It's a fucking fine art, man, and there's not many people.
It's a dying art.
I was going to say, there's not many people that can do it, and it's probably going to go with them.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's like just saying about stuff like that. That's like even doing stuff with my TORANA. I remember looking at it at points in time and going, have I bitten off more than I can chew here? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
We've all had that moment.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
The TORANA, that was a pretty special build. It got a fair bit of attention too. We'll call it the 18-day build because that's what everyone called it. And why not? It makes for a good thumbnail. Fuck it. We're going to have a photo. We're going to be like, built this sick TORANA in 18 days.
From this to that in 18 days.
Yeah.
So tell us, how'd you do it in 18 days, mate?
Definitely didn't. We did a lot of work in those 18 days, but yeah, there's definitely a lot more than that put into it. I think realistically if I went from start to finish, as in the work I did before the big stint for SUMMERNATS, I'd say it'd be like 5 months of solid work, kind of thing. And even that,
which is still super impressive.
But even that, people say like, how do you build a car so fast? And you're like, well, I didn't. I put the hours in.
Yeah.
It's all they are. There's no magic behind it. There's no...
If it needs 500 hours, you can cram that into a month.
Yeah. Literally.
Just means you don't sleep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I had thrashed to get my Commodore done for SUMMERNATS the year before. Because SUMMERNATS, how they do, they do it a bit different now, but they used to announce the wildcard list like a couple of weeks before SUMMERNATS. And I remember I was at work and they announced that I'd got a wildcard with my Commodore. My Commodore was at home with the whole back end cut out of it and so far from being a car, like to go and compete at SUMMERNATS. And I flew home that day and went hell for leather and got it finished and literally got it finished, ready to load up, and the borders shut because of COVID, obviously, at the time.
Oh.
And that was the end of that dream.
Blue balled.
Yeah. So then later that year, I sold the Commodore as a roller and sold the engine and sold all the bits and pieces. And then I kind of said to a couple of people about like maybe getting my TORANA to SUMMERNATS, and it was about the middle of the year at this point, and then like people proceeded to laugh at me and say that that's impossible. Well, that's just the worst thing you can do
Yeah.
is say I can't do something.
That's just going to
like-
light the fire.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, and it did.
isn't that what happened with the Commodore as well? Because, like you say, it was so far from being a car. Someone sent you a screenshot going, bro, you got a wild card. Pity you're never going to make it.
Yeah.
And then you went, like, fuck, I ain't. Boss, book me a flight.
Yeah. That's normally the way it rolls. Like, I love proving people wrong that have a lot more money than me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But even when we did, my mate Tristan and I did SUMMERNATS last year. I had the Commodore as well. That was the first time with the blower and that on it, and we thrashed like to get that because the car just came back from an event in Queensland, and then put all the blower setup on and got it running, and then got it to the dyno and drove through the converter on the dyno. And this was on the Monday. We had to be in Alice for Wednesday for scrutineering for SUMMERNATS, and like it was meant to go on the dyno first thing in the morning, and it didn't. It got on the dyno at like lunchtime, and then drove through the converter. And remember Tristan going like, "Oh, it's all over, spewing," and I was like, "Nah, not yet." So yeah, raced the car from Wangara down to North Dandalup, and by the time I got there, my mate Robbo had his converter out of his Turbo LS HZ Ute sitting on the bench. There was oil there, like everything ready, hoist free. Put the car straight on the hoist. Me and Robbo pulled the box out, put the converter in, got the car home in Baldivis, and I think Tristan and I left Perth, and I think it was Monday midnight, and just drove through the night, through the day, through the night, and got it to SUMMERNATS.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was a big contract. Yeah.
Big contract, he reckons. Fucking hell.
That's a sizable decompress after that weekend, isn't it? Like you need a bit of R&R after that.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to have a fair bit of go about you. Like you say, you get on the dyno and it blows through the converter. Your mate would be, was his name Tristan? He'd be fucking very fair in saying, "Oh well, that's us." Like we've already pulled all the all-nighters. We've busted our ass, and this is what we got. We've got nothing left. But then you just fucking flick the tank to reserve. And you just fucking
I guess that's where it comes in when you've got like a good group of mates and like a big circle where you can pull from. It's not always just knowledge; it can be parts, tools, connections. Like that's why it's so good. The community, So
yeah, for sure. It's nice to have those people that you can call upon. For sure.
It's almost you almost need it. Like it's almost a necessity, I think, unless you're like. Which is not knocking the other guys that just pay shops to do the stuff, but unless you're doing that, you kind of need that. Hey, that's what I've noticed with the half-ass shit we've done on my car. You know this person and that person, stuff that I just can't fathom to do or know who to speak to. It all sort of comes around.
My mate Cole said a very good saying. The thing with the people that have all the money in the world with building cars, they're dead in the water when it comes 5 o'clock and the door's shut at that workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you ain't wrong. That's
Which kills you when you're competing.
Yeah.
You're never competing during business hours.
Yeah, when it's motorsport, 100%.
Yeah.
So, talking about competing and the cars you've taken here, there, and everywhere, was burnouts always your thing?
No, I was always more drag racing. But then, my kind of realised I'm actually pretty good at doing burnouts and I can actually drive pretty good. And then, I got my VX back and then kind of escalated to where it was blown and tubbed with a 4-link and everything. And I hate new Commodores. Like, hate them with a passion. But it was just...
And this one had to die.
Yeah, it was just what was meant to be a cheap slap together car just got carried away and it was no longer a cheap slap together car. And I was like, this isn't me. And then, the TORANA. So,
So was that Commodore meant to be a drag car originally and then it just morphed into a burnout car? Or?
No, I didn't have a car to take to motivation and it was a Wednesday before motivation one year. And
I'm sensing a theme here.
And my mate was sending it to scrap metal. And I was like, oh, yeah. Put a 6-litre in it and turbo 350.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it literally just got out of hand and was never meant to be anything and got carried away with it. And then, that then eventuated into needing to build the TORANA.
Yeah, right. So which events did the VX go to then? You said it went to Queensland?
Yeah, went to Northern Nats in Queensland and did like Gazanats in Collie and UBC in Perth and a few events around there. But yeah, realistically, like not that many realistically.
And then it got blue balled at the border.
Yeah. So then, but the Torana's definitely been the main burnout car. But even now, like when I bring that car out again, it will mainly be for drag racing with a manual and stuff in it.
Oh, with the manual?
Yeah, G-Force 4-speed.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So how did that car start out, the Torana? Was that a bush find or was it something that you sort of already had?
After I got back from Northern Nats, I kind of made the decision. I was like, all right, like I can drive pretty good, but I hate new Commodores.
Yeah.
And there's tons of them as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
So obviously you want something that stands out at least a little bit more than a
that's
third
right.
generation Commodore.
So I went and looked at the Torana. A mate of mine had it for sale, and like I could see it was pretty rotten underneath, but in my head I kind of knew what I wanted to do with it, and it did end up being a lot worse than what I thought.
They all do, bro. They all do.
Yeah, case in point.
Yeah. It still hurts.
But then, it kind of was, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just cut the back out and just do a ladder bar. And then like, upon looking at the floor, I was like, oh, I'll just cut up to here and do it to here. And then like cut up to there and like kind of did it up to there. And I was like, while we're here, we might as well go to the front. So yeah, it ended up
where do you
basically
stop?
from front to rear. And yeah, like I said, when I was at the moment, I think it would have been about probably the start of, no, actually I've got the photo on my phone. It was 20th of September. And there's a photo of the car with absolutely no front end, just not even the chassis rails, just basically the front cross member going back to some bits of RHS to the back chassis rails and that. And the photos from the front, absolutely, basically just the bare outside shell of a Torana and just all concrete on the floor. And I just looked at it and I was like, I think I've bit off a bit more than I can chew here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, fucking hell, I'm not giving up. But yeah, I don't mind failing at something, but I won't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine to like do your best and fail.
Yeah. Better to fail than to give up.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
That's the elite mindset right there. That's the mindset we all need, really.
Yeah, I laugh when I see there was someone over east that, were making it a very public thing of like building a car for SUMMERNATS like last year. And it was like a month and a half out from SUMMERNATS. And they're like, we're going to have to pull the pin where the car's just not going to be ready because of this and that. And I'm like, month and a half? Like, you could build a whole car in that time? Like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
far out.
So once you've stood back, you've looked at this thing, it's basically just a roof and a door line and nothing underneath it. What was your thinking? Like, you've obviously got to piece together somewhat of a plan to turn this back into a car again. It's because it's more like a toboggan at this point.
Yeah, very much.
A really shitty one.
Yeah. Like, what did you draw inspiration from to think like, okay, here's how I'm going to form this?
Basically, so I had looked at kind of my main inspiration for building cars is all the ProFlow cars that you see.
Oh, dude, we recorded a podcast last night with the Unveil cars, and I literally said ProFlow cannot miss. They can't.
No, they are the best car builders in Australia, like hands down. Just the stance, it's basically the ProFlow look.
Yeah.
Like an inch off the ground, like everything kind of out of proportion, but perfectly in proportion, like Hot Wheels cars.
I was going to say, it's a Hot Wheels build.
Yeah.
Real life, billet everything, shiny as fuck.
Yeah. So I started with the car kind of going back together once all the actual main parts of the chassis were done. I started at the rad support basically, and then worked my way back from there, and then it got to everything. Obviously fabrication stuff, as you guys know, takes way longer than what you ever anticipate.
No.
Yeah.
There's a lot of do you do a lot of looking and staring and thinking, or is that just me? Because like I feel like I waste so much time just like trying to decide how you want it to look or how you want it to do, and then you'll think of a problem halfway through and have to pivot. Like, that's just all part of it, eh?
Do
Yeah.
you need another one of those?
Yeah, I do, yeah. And I think I'd built that Torana in my head about 10 times over. Like, I kind of had majority of the car, like, fully planned out, right down to a lot of detail. But not to the point of, like, oh, yeah, if I do that, it'll work. Like,
Yeah.
more ass than class.
Yeah.
When I say that, like,
Yeah.
I had a rough plan on, like, I want this here and I want that there.
Yeah.
That's going to run like that. And like it's got like -12 bulkheads, like through the chassis rails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For all the fuel systems. So kind of knew how everything was gonna go and how everything was gonna mount and everything.
Yeah. Obviously, from all the builds you've done before, you know what it's like trying to run all the AN hoses or hard lines. Like, it's a pain in the ass. That's something I feel like I would think of, because I think of just dumb shit like that.
And
It's the
Burnout.
stupid thing that keeps you awake at night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But that's my problem. I spend too much time thinking about it and not necessarily doing. So, you know, we work on that.
Burnout cars when you're driving on blown tires, especially at like if you're at a speedway track or something, everything drags on the ground. That's why I hated the Commodore. Whereas with the Torana, everything underneath the lowest point of the car is the chassis and the bottom of the sills. Everything else, exhaust and everything, is all higher than the sills, so you can drive on blown tires and nothing scrapes on the ground.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So
Obviously, you can get the stance really good, like everything. Like,
Yeah.
if you're building a chassis from scratch, that's obviously what you do. You do all that stuff.
Yeah. You started out fucking up cars as a bit of a nipper. Did you end up having any like fabrication, like formal training or anything like that? Do you have any background in that? Like,
Nah.
Not even now?
No, not even now.
No.
Heavy diesel mechanic by trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do know how to fuck shit up.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Many 1 mil grinding discs and flappy discs.
Yeah.
Many of them to learn. That's for sure.
So what did the combo end up being on the Torana? For those who don't know, what was the combination?
So for the SUMMERNATS, when we had the car at SUMMERNATS, it was a LS1 671 and Power Glide and 9-inch 35 spline axles and that was all out of a mate's Commodore Ute burnout car, because my engine failed on Christmas Eve, and we already were going hell for leather at that stage. That was the 18-day build going on there. So yeah.
You're about 7 days in and then found out that your engine failed on the dyno. Fucking ripper.
Fuck. How does that make you feel? Just to stop on that for a second. That bit is kind of heartbreaking, isn't it?
Well, that kind of goes back to the blowing through the converter on the dyno, doesn't it? It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, but way worse.
Yeah.
I at that stage, like I say, I won't give up. But at that stage, there were no other options other than to give up. And I remember just laying there and like I was just heartbroken. And my phone was ringing. My mate Chris was trying to call me, and I was like, I'm not answering. I don't want to talk to anyone.
You don't want to hear that. Yeah, we'll be right. Nah. I'm that guy, and this guy's not fucking happy right now.
Fuck you, Chris.
Yeah. And I eventually answered, and he's like, nah, get my ute and pull the engine out. And that was on. So we picked the ute up on Boxing Day and took it to my mate Graham's workshop. And then, that was the last thrash. But, obviously now the car's got the Dodge NASCAR engine in it. But
So that's what was planned for it in the beginning. Yeah, it's an R5 P7, is it?
yeah, R5 P7, But that, the whole 18-day build thing, so that was the last 18 days. So I flew home from work for the last time before SUMMERNATS, and the car was still unpainted, still from basically where the back seat is to the back of the car, apart from the tubs. It had no floor in it. It had no parcel shelf in it, no rear firewall in it. It had never had any piece of wiring. It had never had any braided lines made. It had never had an engine or gearbox. And I flew home, finished the sheet metal, and then my mate Reese Regan and a couple of the boys came round, and we got it painted in the shed, and then got it to Streetline, my mate Graham's workshop, and just before Christmas, and then got it painted in the shed, and then got it to Streetline, my mate Graham's workshop, and just before Christmas, and then got it to Streetline, my mate Graham's workshop, and just before Christmas, and then got it to Streetline, my mate Graham's workshop, and just before Christmas, and then got it to Streetline, my mate Graham's workshop, and just before Christmas, and we started doing all the fuel system and stuff like that, and brake lines and all of that kind of thing.
Quick, easy jobs. These
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
knock it out in an afternoon.
We were kind of trying to get everything done apart from the engine, like waiting on the engine. Then the engine failed on the dyno, and then it brought us. So by this time it was then Boxing Day, and we're getting the VZ Ute with the blown LS dropped off. So like, then we pull the engine and box out of the Ute and sit it into the TORANA. So this is like, got dropped off on the 26th of December, and then we notched the cross member to fit a VE sump, made a set of extractors, made an engine plate set up, plumbed the car, wired it, and fired it up on the 28th, 2 days later.
Jesus Christ. Now, I think, if I remember correctly on your socials, you basically set up a swag next to the car and you were just like working until you fell on the swag, went to sleep, got up and kept going.
Yeah. And then the last kind of 18 days of doing the car, especially once it got to Graham's workshop, there were several nights where like I just worked through the night, and then the next day would work till like that arvo, and then couldn't go anymore, and then would have a sleep. But the biggest push on it was definitely the last push to get it over the line. Was from Friday morning till Sunday afternoon. And yeah, I worked through the night on Friday night, and then through the day, and then like I was going home to sleep because I was absolutely ruined. And I remember, because we had to leave for SUMMERNATS the next day, like on Sunday.
Yeah.
As anyone that's been to SUMMERNATS knows, they're very strict with their scrutineering times. Like, you get there for your scrutineering.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to be in Canberra for Wednesday, and it got to Saturday afternoon, and I was just absolutely knackered, like, because it'd been going so hard on the car, hadn't slept at all the night before, just worked through the night. And I remember I looked at the list on the board. I was at the workshop by myself. Everyone had gone home for New Year's and that. I looked at the list on the board and I went, literally, if I go home and go to bed looking at that list, I've spent like this much money over the last like few months and did all this work for absolutely nothing. Like, we are not going. Like, there is no if, buts or maybes. Like, the list on the board was still huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I go home, like, it's not getting done. There's 2 full days work there. We've got 1 day. We need to put 2 days into one.
Yeah.
And the boys got to the workshop in the morning, like, all got there first thing in the morning. And they looked at me and were like, have you been to bed? And like, I wasn't in a good way. Like, I was...
Delirium setting in.
Yeah, very lethargic and very like...
Not thinking straight.
Nah.
We've all done it when you work through.
Yeah, it's
like
man,
being
it's
like
bad for
super
ya.
drunk, hey?
Yeah.
You just, I've done it before, working shift work and then having to get things done. Like, you end up being awake for 40 hours or something. I remember just stopping in the middle of the shed, like just completely forgetting, like, I had a grinder. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, you just completely...
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you're just drunk,
Yeah.
like really drunk.
Yeah, you just start laughing at yourself going, the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know the feeling. I just haven't done it anywhere near as much as what you have.
Yeah, and then it got to that afternoon, and I remember I was cutting the bonnet to fit the blower and everything. So yeah, that's how far behind we were, kind of thing. Like, we were making the bonnet fit on Sunday afternoon as we were about to load it up. I remember cutting the bonnet, and my mate Graham looked at me. He's like, do you just hate it? Are you over it? And like, but you got to remember, I've just worked so hard for this, and finally, like, right now, it's a finished sort of car and about to load it up. So I'm seeing this vision I've had in my head finally a reality. And I was like, to be honest, I'm still loving it. And he was like, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And I was in good spirits. But I remember standing there at the edge of the workshop, and my mate Cole was like, asked me, what direction is home? And I couldn't tell you. And there's a video that he put on my Facebook of he was driving me home because I couldn't drive. Like I was
Yeah,
too,
I was going to say, yeah.
he was driving me home to have a shower, and he's filming me taking the piss out of me, and I'm just like, just out of it, just from just no
You
sleep.
look like full methed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got in the car, and I slept from Perth to Norseman, basically. Like, and I don't know if any of you...
And even then, that wasn't enough.
I don't know if any of you have driven the Great Eastern Highway lately, but or in the last
Not
few
ideal.
years. Apparently my head was just banging off the window and it's just out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of... I wouldn't never go to that extreme again with it, because that whole SUMMERNATS trip to me is like a blur. Like,
Yeah.
I was just that physically ruined, and it's not good for you.
Nah.
Jesus. Yeah, that whole week of SUMMERNATS, I just feel like I was a zombie.
Yeah.
Like the whole time. Like even there, like I lapped the car a bit, but like when I took my Commodore to SUMMERNATS, like I lapped that flat out. Whereas like when I had the TORANA there, I was just saying to the boys, I was like, if you just put tyres on, I'd take this for a lap, because I couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not good for you.
I guess the main win out of that is you prove to yourself that you can do, like, you've got that. You can do it. You did.
Yeah.
You performed basically a miracle almost in most of our eyes. So you might not have enjoyed the trip, but at least you've got that in the back of your mind, and that's priceless.
And like we were saying before, you see all these things that are like, oh, this car was built in a year and all of this, and you're like, and you look at it and you do say like about those cars, you're like, wow, that's so cool. Imagine building that in a year. And it's like, guys like us are more than capable of doing that, but we don't have the money to do that majority of the time,
And in order to get the money to buy the parts, we're going to work, and that's taking away time from the build.
Yeah, that's 100%, 100%. And you're like, whereas with how I'd sold the Commodore and the blown engine, all that stuff kind of led to funding the TORANA. And I guess that's another reason behind why I did it, just sort of to prove to myself that I can do it. And it's reasons why I haven't finished things in the past or haven't done things is because you literally didn't have the money to achieve that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like as you know yourself, like, again, case in point.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had the money for every single part for that car, we probably wouldn't be doing this. You'd probably be putting the car together.
Yeah. And truth be told, I'm probably not that far off, but we're kind of just snowed under a little bit with the other stuff that we've put, like got the wagon, got the Maloo, we're still finishing up Kurt's car. I'm kind of in a spot now where we've just got to try and prioritise things, because you can't do all of them. You know what I mean? And you can do all of them, but you can't do all of them well. If you focus on one and you execute it well, then you move on to the next. But you've got to have that level of focus. I mean, imagine if you were trying to, say, build your TORANA, but also put together that VZU. Not just like pull the engine out and put it in the TORANA, but if you were trying to divide your time between two projects, it's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, and it just feels like you get nowhere.
Yes. Yeah, it's one step forward, two steps back, for sure.
I find the hardest thing is the motivation. I don't know what it is with me. I just get unmotivated. You do a bit, like if you've got a goal to work towards, like when we've done the motivation little thrash, or even the
Bit of a
last
deadline.
even sort of the thrash we did on all the AFI and stuff, like I'll quite happily stay up till 2, 3, whatever. I can do it. But then, like, once you've got no goal, I think you just got to keep setting goals is one thing I'm learning. Like, if you've got a goal, like you said, you're not going to make it if you fucking stay inside on your phone or whatever, or go to the... Yeah, so you've got to just put yourself on the spot and not be scared to fail, I guess. Like, if you put a deadline on and then you want to make it, but not be scared to fail, or otherwise you won't. Because that's what I think I struggle with. I won't put myself on the spot because you might not make it. You just got to push yourself.
Yeah, you're very non-committal.
Yeah.
But I think just by human nature, we're kind of like that, right? It's like, could you ever afford to, say, build the level of TORANA that you ended up with? No, not really. But you just put it over your head. You bite off more than you can chew, and you just chew like fuck.
It's exactly
and you make
right.
it happen, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of thing. It's like, can we finish this car in 18 days? Not really, but we're going to give it a nudge.
Yeah.
And with a bit of will and determination, you get it over the line one way or another. if you you got the whole people that talk about the law of attraction and stuff like that. If you put it out there that you're gonna do something, the world will give you the opportunity to make it happen. You've just got to be willing enough to put in the work.
Yeah, I remember it was we test kitted the car on the Saturday, the day before we left, and when we were coming back from test kitting it at a mate's place in Wellard, my mate Cole said to me, he's like, now, be truthful, when we flew home from work, were you genuinely confident that this was going to be a running, driving car? I was like, God, no. Jesus, no way. And he's like, yeah, cool. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, just making sure you're not a dreamer.
Yeah.
He's like, at least you were realistic about it.
Because not only would you be lying to me, you'd be lying to yourself.
Yeah. Just the way he asked. I was like, of course I didn't believe myself that it was possible. I was going to try.
Yeah. So the car gets back from SUMMERNATS. You give old mate his driveline back because the NASCAR engine's ready to go.
Middle of the year, I got the NASCAR engine.
Yeah.
So I got the engine, I think like June or July. Then
what actually failed? When it failed on the dyno, what actually failed?
So it had something go through it, foreign object from the carby go through it, and it was enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough to break hearts.
Oh man, it's always something silly, isn't it?
But like even my mate Cole said to me when he was giving me shit about being realistic and stuff, if that engine, just the way everything panned out, it was just kind of meant to be, because if that engine had rolled up, like we wouldn't have got that done. No way.
It's a bit more intense when you're trying to get one of those. They're a very highly strung engine. Trying to get one of them sorted versus a combo that's already proven, done. It's already had lines made for it.
Just the dry sump
I
side of it.
I was about to say, I'm going through this right now with the Maloo build.
Yeah.
Once you start talking dry sumps and stuff like that, you've still got to pack it. You got to put 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, and it needs to be functional and not catch on fire, and
serviceable.
You've got an engine which I can only assume is a solid investment. So you want it. It needs to be right. You can't just cut corners with things like oiling systems, fuel systems, because all the hard work can come undone just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is an R5 P7 NASCAR engine for those who are uninitiated?
So it's a like late 90s, early 2000s Cup Series NASCAR engine. So then they went to the R6 P8, which is what that Josh Smith's VH from Tasmania has.
That thing's wild, eh?
Yeah, beautiful car.
That
Credit to him.
That is
absolutely
a wild unit.
Stunning car. But so it's kind of like a little bit older version of that. But so that rolled up in about July, and then we were getting some mates' cars finished for Gaznat's Darwin. So we got them done, and then the engine had just rolled up. And we went to Darwin, and then I was going to get mine running later on. And then, we had a fat time in Darwin on the piss. Everyone, fuck yeah, we're going to get back and, put the engine in, fuck yeah. And that's what we did. We got home, went to work, and then next break, we all thrashed and got the engine in and got it to West Coast Nats, and unfortunately got rained out for the burnouts. But it was in and it was running, and So now from there to now is kind of, I hit the wall a few months later in Katanning, and then the car's been, so I think I skidded it probably about 10 times, and then it's been parked up since then. And then I've just, because there's been like so many things in my head that I want to change, and
I was going to ask that question with the thrash, like even at the start when you said we're slapping sheet metal in and things like that. I'm thinking, I wonder if you'd change some things afterwards.
It's it's actually more so just components that which was why I looked at yours out the front and I saw the Willwoods and I was like, ooh, bugger.
Yeah.
Because front left wheelwood caliper has given me heaps of dramas, like as in like this piston was 2 of the pistons were seized in it, and just stupid little things like that. And then had the car on methanol, and the methanol just seemed to, it was unsettling the piston just because methanol is so dense, and so it was rocking the piston coming up the bore, creating blow-by. So put it on now like a VP 109 race fuel kind of thing. But with my daughter this year being able to race junior dragster, that's why I want to go racing, so that then that's something we can do together.
Both at the track,
Yeah. So it's a G-Force 4-speed now.
Yeah.
And all carbon fibre doors, carbon fibre boot, carbon fibre bonnet, and lighten it up. Put on the Jenny Craig diet a bit. And I want to run an 8 NA with the manual.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, so like there's heaps of guys doing it kind of thing in America, but I reckon that'd be cool.
So what's your motivation towards going the manual? Is it just so you can get every last drip of horsepower out of it and do something a little different, or?
Nah, so my uncle, who was probably my biggest influence in cars, he used to race a HK Monaro at Ravenswood with a manual, and then his R31 like pro stock car, that was a manual. And then I don't think there's anything cooler than like 9,000 RPM on the start line and having to let go of the clutch. That'll let you know you're alive.
And having that far less drag from like when you normally have an automatic transmission, that's got to be a good thing for that particular engine combo, right? Because they love to rev.
And they don't make any torque. Like there's no torque,
Yeah.
like whatsoever. Like
The
changing.
whole idea of them is they go wide open and they stay there for 2 hours straight, right? They just want to rev and just stay there in their power band and just be happy.
Literally the best way to describe driving it is like a 2-stroke. So like before 7,000, it's the equivalent of driving like a stock LS1. And then it gets to like 7,000 and it just comes on. Like, it's wild. Like changing, I've never, like how normally when you're younger, you change diff gears and, it goes a bit quicker. Pretty excited. Man, changing from 3.25 gears to 3.9s in that it felt like it gave you another 500 horsepower.
Yeah, right. Just because you could start using that RPM.
Or just because it doesn't make the torque.
Yeah,
and
it's just
everything's
tugs it
RPM.
down way too hard, eh?
Yeah. So that's even more so why, a light car, so if it's less weight, that's going to make even more. So the general rule of thumb is like 100 pounds is a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
But with that, making no torque and all of that, I reckon it'll do even more than that, taking weight out of it kind of thing. So that's why I've focused on that rather than trying to get the engine to make more horsepower.
Yeah. So what other changes are you making with the car, say transitioning it from a Burnout trim to, say, drag racing? Are you changing the suspension setup, or is there any, have you had to change the tubs or anything for wheels, or was that all pretty much the same?
Yeah, so I always did plan on racing it.
Yeah.
That's why it's got Enemies Racing anti-roll bar. It's got 35 spine axles and all of that. It's got the AFCO shocks in it, and about the only thing now is I do want to put a Tin Soldiers race cars 4-link in it, but I will race it with the ladder bar. There's plenty of ladder bar cars still separating, so I want to have the car so it separates but not run it on a radial. So all the no prep cars in America, they all run slicks and separation and then hang the front, long travel on the front kind of thing. I don't know if you've put a car down the Motorplex in the last few years, but that's basically a no prep track.
Yeah.
That's the general gist that we get.
Yeah.
They are trying, but like you say, the Tin Soldier sort of low prep stuff, a lot of people are going to that sort of style. Yeah. It gives you a bit more versatility as well, I guess, for whatever you're doing.
I think just with on the Motorplex side of things, it is, when you look at how expensive traction compounder that
Oh,
is,
yeah.
you're like, I think it's something like it's a few grand like per drum kind of thing. You're like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we have to make our cars work around it, really.
I guess
If we get more people to the track paying their entry fee, then they might start spending some more money on VHT.
Yeah, or just more radial cars, you know. Like
Yeah.
there's still a huge outweigh with the rag tyres versus the radial. So,
Yeah.
you know, it might, like everything, WA stands for wait a while. So we'll eventually come around
Yeah.
for
You
sure.
just
So,
need the money there. Look, case in point, look how big Burnouts is.
Yeah.
It's the prize money.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Jeff quite often talk about how we could sort of help by trying to get some more money and just some more everything into drag racing, you know.
So
Yeah.
this was
Get
a
people going to watch and sort of,
Yeah, and this was a conversation that we had a little while ago, and it's just like, okay, so the event promoter puts on the event, but who's responsible for putting bums in seats? Sure, the event promoter's going to put the posters out there and they're going to like tell people about the event, but really, when you look at what happened with, say, the No Prep Kings event and stuff like that, what brought people to the track were the races. People came to watch the races. So I think with this shift going from, you know, like the change of the guard almost, where the old money is starting to retire and move away from the sport, and you get some of these younger people in who are a little bit more savvy with social media and stuff like that, we might see a bit more of a shift of people wanting to follow, for lack of a better term, you know, their racing personality that they follow, which I think will be a good thing, but we're just not quite there yet.
But what brings races to the track?
Prize money. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's this
or
this
like
circle.
or like competition, rivalry, you know. Every bloke wants to beat the next bloke next to him, you know, like you see guys like Maturks and Croydon and stuff, they don't give a fuck about the money, they just want to be the best.
Yeah.
So there's that element as well, you know, like
So when my old man was racing, one Western Nationals, there was 60-something cars in Super Sedan. And the top comp was like almost 30 cars. I don't know if you guys know, but there's currently 2 cars that compete in top comp.
Really?
2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth the money.
There's the cars are there in WA, they're just all in sheds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's there. There needs, like you said, whether it be a competition thing or prize money, there needs to be an incentive.
yeah.
Like,
Needs to be fun.
There needs to be a change.
Yeah.
So wasn't there there was a little bit of a razz up there with the Begley family with their new build? They were chasing it. Was it a AA gas record or something? I think there was a couple of people who were sort of trying to chase that down. But it's, like you say, those rivalries and people sort of trying to get to a record first or whatever, it's pretty few and far between these days, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like realistically, everything is so expensive these days. The way, like just the world and the way living is, I guess drag racing's a luxury, isn't it?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that explains all the cars parked up realistically.
Yeah. Imagine if you could make a living from racing, though. How many of us would be signing up for that?
Yeah.
Even if you could just break even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
halve your expenses, anything. Like,
Yeah.
But my whole reason behind going drag racing is burnouts when you kind of get to the expensive end of it. So burnouts is pretty brutal because it sucks you into being so much fun and it doesn't cost that much. And look what you can do with the stock bottom end LS. Then you kind of take that next step and then you go, right, this isn't cheap anymore. And you're like, my dry sump setup holds like 18 litres, $750 to do an oil change.
Holy shit.
You know, I run 17-inch tyres. Like, set of tyres is like over $100, and then that
$1,000.
yeah, and then the VP 109 race fuel is $280 for a 20-litre drum. So you know you're taking 60 litres to an event.
Yeah.
You're doing an oil change. You're getting some tyres. So really, if I wanted to go do motivation, just to get the car there is $3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's perfect
Yeah, I was
best
gonna
case
say,
scenario.
nothing
Yeah,
going
yeah.
That's without tagging the wall. That's without doing any damage to transmission, engine, whatever.
Yeah,
That's
so
perfect.
whereas I look at it, when my daughter's racing this year, I buy 20 litres and that'll last you like 2 meetings kind of thing. You got the same tyres. You haven't gone out and done a burnout for 2 minutes and just destroyed the oil. So your oil's probably going to last you a season or
Yep.
half a season
Yeah.
kind of thing. And you're like, it's going to cost me probably about $400-500 to go race a meeting,
Yeah.
full day of enjoyment,
Yeah.
and probably go home with a car that's not broken too.
Yeah.
Well, you'd hope so.
Yeah. So that's where, to me, it's a lot more. Obviously, the outlay with drag racing is initially a lot more expensive. As you know, like setting a car up for drag racing can be
Yeah.
very expensive. But once you've done that initial outlay, the maintenance costs going forward from that
Yeah.
is a lot more appealing than a burnout car, or even the thing with the burnout car as well. Like, you might spend 40-50 on an engine and it's a burnout car.
Yeah.
That is a consumable
I've
item.
always wondered that you get to that spot where, like, obviously you've got your stock bottom end stuff, or even sort of rod and piston LS stuff, you can still get away with that fairly cheap. And if you blow it up, you're like, whatever. But you get to a point where you need a really strong motor. You want to start trying to win events and stuff. So you're in on the motor, and now you're like, I really don't want this fucking thing to rod or have any sort of dramas. Like
The
it's
worst,
that.
and the worst part about that is that you, like you say, you spend the money and you're getting ready because you want to go up there, be the best and win, and you can get dunced because the judge didn't like you.
That was that was the very
whereas
next thing I was going to bring up.
You go drag racing, and it's non-discriminatory. Does not give a fuck. It's the first person to the line.
Zero grey.
Yeah.
Unless you have a light malfunction, you get disqualified or something. But
Yeah. But even then, like it's a light
Yeah.
malfunction. It's pretty clear cut. It's not. It's not figure skating.
Yeah, you're
No,
not.
no,
You're
no,
not.
no, that's right.
It's not automotive figure skating. You're not waiting for someone to put a fucking card up and oh yeah, really, that was really pretty smoke you got there, Aiden. Like, really appreciate the way that you just flicked the tail out around there at the end. There, it was really special.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's for there is an art to it, but it's open to interpretation. And if you are gonna double down because you want to be successful and you want to try and make some of that prize money to try and get some of your investment back, it's a fucking big gamble.
Yeah, because the goalposts are going to move depending on what event you go to, and I'm sure you guys know. When you go to SUMMERNATS, they're looking for this, and this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're still all human, and I guarantee you there would be, not knowing anything about burnouts at all, there'd still have to be a purple circle factor in and amongst different events, no matter where you go. So you're dealing with that as well.
I think the other thing that draws me to burnouts and being around burnouts is how I was saying before that the cars that really influenced me to build are like the ProFlow cars.
Yeah.
To me, burnouts is the place, because we don't really have, as you guys know, we don't have Power Crews anymore. We don't have Gaznats anymore. Burnouts for me is where you can build a car like that and its purpose.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like a lot of those cars, like they'll drive, you see them drive on the street and that here and there, and then, you don't really see them do much. Whereas a lot of my mates' cars that, also very influenced by the ProFlow look. It's kind of, burnouts is kind of like, you can build a car as wild as your imagination and make it look as wild as you want and do all these ideas in your head, and you don't need to meet engineering criteria or have someone check it over and have all this extra safety things in place that you do a drag car for it to be functional. It can be like a killer show car, but it goes out and bangs tires.
Still has a purpose.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that draws me to being around it a lot. Like, I've just finished a couple of mates' cars, and very much like, they're too wild for the street and they're not a drag car. What do you do with it? So that's one part that I really love about it, and why, even if I am racing, I will still be doing burnouts in something, build something else, and like even with mates' cars, I do love helping them with it because you can just build wild cars really.
Yeah.
And you can go back to that sort of more budget-oriented drivetrain as well, and make it fun again.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even, like, Lynchy, case in point, like, he won SUMMERNATS, beat the best of the best in a NALS because he drives the absolute wheels off it.
Yeah.
Like, perfect example.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So now that the TORANA, I guess we'll call it quote unquote done, it's, you've more or less, you've got it together, and obviously there's some changes that you're going to make along the way. But what's sort of piquing your interest at the moment? Are you looking at building, let's say, another one for Burnouts, or are you mostly just sort of taking your skills and putting them into other people's cars at the moment?
For the last year kind of thing, I've been putting all my skills into other people's cars, and actually just been kind of working for myself and just almost ready to put my business name out there of working for myself. But at the moment, the one on the go is I'm working for Shannon at TuneCorp in Maddington.
Legend of a fella.
Absolute legend of a bloke.
Yeah.
And just we're finishing a World Time Attack car there, S15 with a dry sump turbo LS. So once that one's done, after that, I've allocated my own time to get my Kingswood finished, my street car.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's the next one on the chopping block. Oh, I lie, actually. I got to finish, while the S15, I got to finish my mate Michael Donnelly's XF and my mate
just
Tristan's.
know he was just about to jump in the comments there and be like, nah, bullshit.
Finish that and my mate Tristan's EV Falcon and get them done first, which they're just a couple of days kind of thing. And then, once S15's done, which I think the first event for that is in start of March, Shannon was saying today. So, that's rolling around pretty quick, eh?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't take long for like I was saying, the calendar to tick over.
And then, again, I guess, don't really learn from my mistakes. Set myself a deadline with the Kingswood and entered in Gazinat's Darwin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I look forward to seeing you drive from Perth to Darwin in 32 hours.
So that's why I went out into the desert the other day and picked up that Kingswood because like a HK front subframe, if you can find one, sells for like $3,500 to $5,000.
Really?
Yeah.
You could buy an aftermarket one for that, couldn't you?
No. So the actual full front chassis rails and engine bay and everything all bolts on on a KTG, and HK is actually different from G&T.
Ah.
And a HK one is like if you can find one. Like,
right.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's just that subtle nuance between the K versus the T and G.
All the trans mount, everything is completely different.
Yeah,
And there's pressings in the engine bay. So if you're a HK person, you walk up to a HK, it's got a HG front end, you look at it and you're like, it's not right.
You turn your nose up to that bloke and be like, he was in a rush.
Yeah. Here you go. It's a perfect example. If you walked up to a VHS Lean, it had VL Calais front seats.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You'd look and go,
Same but different.
Kurt, come look at this.
Or like,
he's a phony.
Yeah,
he's a big fat phony.
You see that happen tape with the SLE, like shadow tone stripes properly or like stuff like
yeah,
that. There's always little nuances, eh? And
If
it's
you
funny
know
what
them.
you get bent out of shape, hey? Like,
Yeah.
I've mentioned it before on the pod ages ago. VL Calais without the black side skirts.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just I can't deal with
everyone
it.
just does them silver.
And it was funny because I didn't even know until one of my VL mates pointed out, and I'm like, "Fuck, I can't unsee that now."
Yeah.
Or
Or
I
if
think I
someone...
did the same thing with the shadow tone with you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that looks good. I'm like, nah, but they did it wrong. And when I told you how they taper towards the front, you can't unsee it. And now you just go, all right, well, that one's fucked and that one's fucked.
Or another good one is all those little things you see. You walk up to a VK with the side mouldings and the badges, and you look inside and you go, "It's got no rear headrests."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go,
Yeah.
you're lying to yourself, brother.
Yeah.
God, we're a bunch of
Yeah,
fuckheads,
the
aren't
train,
we?
you just can't get rid of that train spotter, eh?
Yeah.
But we, we're reading magazines and on the bloody Facebook and forums forever. So you just got like all this stuff going on in your head. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just sort of what you're into.
So what sort of work are you doing on these cars? Is it mostly sort of fabrication, or is it a bit of all sorts? Like you're doing say an S15 time attack car. There's a hell of a lot that goes into something like that.
Yeah, everything kind of thing in the last year. Like I did my mate Brock Fullich, his VL, did all the engine bay on that and painted it and did all the body work, and then he had someone paint the outside, and then another mate, Dane Adams, his VH, I did all the rear end, all the chassis side of things in that and built the engine for that, and then did a heap of other jobs in between, and all while working my normal job of being a heavy diesel mechanic up north.
Yeah.
And then, now with this, when Shannon approached me to do this S15 for him, I already had a lot on my plate. But I was like, oh, there's a lot to learn there. He's a very knowledgeable dude, and they do some very cool stuff. And although I knew I didn't really have the time, I said yes, and I've made the time.
And you're paying for it ever since.
Yeah, and the stuff that, even just the other day, like Shannon's like, yeah, cool, if you can just do a steering position sensor on it. And I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
And like Motec, literally like a gear that goes over the steering column, and then you mount the other gear off a bracket kind of next to it with a belt, miniature tiny belt that looks like something from a model car, and sensor on the back of that, and that's to know to be able to pull timing and stuff out for how sharp of a corner it's going around and stuff like that.
That's going to the nth degree, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
I mainly said yes just for the learning. I'm very passionate about learning more and being the best I can be. So
it's pretty amazing though. Like you're saying, you're doing tin work, you're doing paint, you're screwing engines together, you're wiring up sensors. Like fuck, man, that's 4 different shops of shit there. You know, like,
I was gonna say you're obviously doing everything. What's your least favourite thing that obviously you do but you prefer not to do, or if you wish you had a mate that would come and do this?
That's hell easy. That's wiring.
Yeah.
My mate.
We've been kissed on the dick there.
my mate Lionel Powers, he is a legend, and I wired my VX, the Commodore myself, and like that took me so long. I can do it, but it takes me ages. When we were doing the TORANA, like I don't even think it was less than a day, and like Lionel comes up and he's like, "All done, Bull. What do you want me to do next?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I look in there.
You can go back and finish that job you're supposed to start.
And literally the car was like wide front to rear, tail lights, headlights, like full killer panel made up and MSD mounted wire, like just crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's a weapon.
Yeah.
He just did rewired ballistics cars for SUMMERNATS, and he's been doing a lot of work for other people in that lately, but again, he's a heavy diesel mechanic.
Right on.
Yeah.
Some people just gravitate towards shit, hey?
I think that's a trade that you sort of need to have. You need to have sort of it's not just nuts and bolts.
No, it's not.
Like our good friend Matt Rose, that with the Chaser, he's a diesel mechanic. He's a customer of Shannon's as well. He wired the whole Motec, PDM, like everything front to back on that Chaser. Yeah. Not a drama.
Screwed the engine together. He's
super clever dude, and so it's just a part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're sort of not going to make it.
Yeah. But I'm only like 2 years out of my trade. Like I did mature age apprenticeship kind of thing.
Yep.
So I reckon once I'm Lionel's age, hopefully I'm that good at wiring.
Yeah.
We've often said between the two of us though, like if we want to have a proper crack at this and go out racing cars or whatever, you can't afford to be A, waiting on someone's availability, and B, having to pay for them to do it for you. You kind of just got to learn how to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when you're stuck in the pits with a stupid fucking problem, like if you look hard enough, you're going to find the problem and you're going to be able to sort it out.
Yeah.
And particularly in your case, if it's a car that you've put every nut, bolt, washer in, you're going to know where shit is and you're going to know where to find the problem.
Yeah, 100%. Or even look at something like your own car. Just look at that. Oh, all these cars, like, you look at the hours into it, and you're
Rather
like,
not.
and you're like, imagine if we paid people.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
they just
It does
wouldn't
take a
happen.
lot longer
It
to
wouldn't-
learn, but it's hard to describe the satisfaction you get when you do something. Like, I'm a fabricator. I build stuff all the time. I'm in maintenance, so I don't build much stuff anymore, but I still, like, I could make the most basic thing, something basic out of RHS at work or something, and I don't know, you still get a satisfaction of making something that was literally just straight bits of steel or flat bits of this and that. I'm sure you get it with wiring and fucking engines that are apart, you know, like, there's
Yeah.
a satisfaction that you get that you probably can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
That you're interested in anyway.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something about it.
So you're building yourself a bit of a shed. Give us a bit of a rundown. People love a bit of shed chat.
Oh, we all like to talk about
What's
it.
the ideal shed for you? Obviously, it's what you're building.
It's 18 by 12 and 4.5 meters to the gutters. And then once that's done is kind of when I wouldn't really say I'm going to advertise for
You won't
my
have to.
business,
Yeah.
Stampalia Race Engineering, because currently I'm booked out to the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I've got this one, like the car at TuneCorp I'm finishing. Then I got the Kingswood of my own that I'm doing, because my daughter Eloise, she was about ready to kill me when I sold the gold Monaro.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's why I need the Kingswood done, because street cars are what I probably enjoy the most. Like
Because
just
you can
going
enjoy
for a
them
drive.
with the family, right?
Oh, you can spend $20 and you can go on a cruise and enjoy a car, and you can use it all the time. You don't have to wait for an event twice a year.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing my Kingswood. That'll take us to like June kind of thing, and then doing a rear end on a mate's Commodore, and then VNSS. That'll be a pretty cool car. And then after that, got basically the kind of gist of it is the ProFlow look for a LX Torana that's like an all original kind of thing. And he's kind of said wants me to do the rear end and a heap of other things and give it that stance of the ProFlow look. And
Nice.
so that kind of will take us close to the end of the year kind of thing. And then
So with your shed height, 4.5 meter wall height, are you looking at putting like a mezzanine up and stuff like that for extra storage, or does it need to be that high for like trailers and whatever to go through?
Nah, that'll be mezzanine, 100%.
Yeah, nice. Extra storage, man. It's worth its weight in gold. And you sort of brought up a funky point just before the podcast. For people who say they think they got a gangster shed because they just built a 20 by 10.
It's all wrong.
What would you say to someone who's just put a 20 by 10 up?
That
Or
sucks.
who's looking to get a quote on a 20 by 10? What advice would you give them?
If you go the extra 2 meters, you've just doubled the size of your shed.
Yeah.
20 by 10, you can't fit 2 cars nose to nose. 20 by 12, 12 meters deep on a shed, you can go 2 cars nose to nose and you can walk around it and it's all good.
Yeah, what would you rather, a 20 by 10 or a 15 by 12?
Definitely the 20 by 10, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Nah, mainly just because the 20 by 12 and 15 by 10, you're going to have the same amount of cars in there with bays. So it's the 4 and 3 kind
Sorry,
of thing.
I said a 20 by 10 or a 15 by 12. So it's short.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm hearing you. So it'll
you
be 3.
You sacrificed
Yeah,
5
yeah.
meters of length.
We're talking about sacrificing a bit of length, a bit of girth for a bit of length, or
a bit
the
of length,
opposite.
yeah, a bit of length for a bit of girth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Because the 20 by 10, you're going to fit 4 cars. There's going to be 4 bays, heaps of room to work on them. But
Yeah.
the,
I was going to say, because
the
you
15 by 12,
you can make up like a 3 meter bay, but that's just a parking bay. That's not a working bay.
Yeah. The 15 by 12, you're going to have 3 bays. So realistically, one full one of those is going to want to be a working bay.
Yeah.
So you're really going to have like 2 spare bays.
But you got double depth.
You got double depth, but then you're going to be greedy too. So you're not ever going to have a full working bay, and there'll always be a car in there.
Yeah.
So none of them work.
Which is a hassle. There's nothing worse than working on top of another car.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I say now, is the ideal way to do it is several 12x12s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, if you have finished cars,
Yeah,
you don't
want them in there where you're grinding, eh?
No,
No.
you got to have a clean shop and a dirty shop.
Literally.
Yeah.
I've literally, it's stopped progress on my cars and other people's cars just from having mine sit in there and being a hassle to move. It's like, oh, I don't want to cover.
Yeah, it's pissing
Even
down,
though it's shitty paint or whatever, it's like...
It's pissing down with rain. I can't fucking push this car outside because it's got no windscreen in it, and I can't grind because it's got fresh paint.
You want an area where you can just
You know what I
fucking
mean?
make a mess, like not
Yep.
even care about making a mess, you know? So you want to store all your shit, you know? You'll have engines you don't want to get covered in shit, all sorts.
Yeah, you're probably onto it there, I reckon. Yeah, 2 12x12s. A clean one and a dirty one.
Or at least a designated metalwork area that you can sort of enclose in some way, shape or form so that it's not putting shit everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen heaps of people that just have this ginormous shed and you're like, even if that's there and that's
It's
still going to get dirty.
Yeah,
you're like,
There'll be
You'll
cars,
find a way.
you could park a car outside 10, 12 metres away and it's still getting grinding sparks on it. That's how it works. That
Mate,
shit travels everywhere.
And how many hours did we spend taping up plastic all over your shed before we sprayed your engine bay? And there was still fucking overspray on fucking everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
It finds a way, man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
painting's super bad.
the other good thing, if you do the whole 2 12x12s thing, is it's way less outlay to build a 12x12 shed. So you can build a shed, you can use it.
The kit's cheaper, yeah.
Yeah, you can use it, have the shed usable, and then later on build your other shed
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Where you start
rather
storing
than-
all the finished ones.
Yeah, when you actually finish a car, then you can be like, all right, I need the other shed now.
Yeah, hopefully you've turned up enough invoices that you can build the second one.
Yeah, looking back, that's definitely more so the way to do it.
Yeah.
Even not having the cars completely finished in the second shed, but for assembling stuff, for storing stuff, like, you know, you got a nice interior out of a car you've just pulled apart. You don't want that in the same shed that you're MIG welding in and grinding and like, it's definitely...
If you haven't done it before, you won't realise how much mess it really does make. Especially if you've got a light coloured car, you see it like so quickly.
But if you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. We're about to find out. Yeah, rust repairs is probably the worst with like, making stuff absolutely filthy.
Yeah. Well, we could probably be here. I reckon this could be a 5-hour podcast because I know you got stories on stories on stories. I reckon we'll probably end up having to do a part 2 on this, but we don't want to keep you all night. You've been good enough to make the journey down to us. But before we let you go, we've got a little bit more to go through. We've got some guest questions that we get up to.
Oh, God.
And some of these will, you know, they might have some lengthy answers, so we might still be here for 5 hours yet. But we give these same questions to everybody. Obviously, Jaden's the only one that's had them so far, so you're the second one. And guys, if you guys have got any extra questions that you think that we should get up to, drop them in the comments for us or send us an email, talkhub@gmail.com. These are just the first ones that we've sort of come up with, but we're not married to them. We're happy to change them. First question, mate. Have you ever lost your license?
No.
No.
Never lost my license.
Oh, were there any close calls?
Yes. Almost got done for hoon laws leaving the motorplex.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit of a trap though, isn't it? Because you leave there full of testosterone, ready to fucking punch a set of tyres, and then there's a cop always sitting in the corner in there.
Yeah, I was 17 years old in my VS HSV Manta, and my brother pulled up behind me in his VS Senator because like, this idiot's getting done for hoon laws. I'll give him a lift home. They let me off and they yellow stick my brother's car.
No good deed goes unpunished,
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, shit. Which car was the one that got away? That's either one that you regret selling or one that you regret not buying.
Oh, there's two. Definitely be the gold Monaro HK GDS. That'll forever be that. And then the other one is my old white HQ wagon, which would have seen is now has a turbo LS in it and was at Motivation on airbags and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was my first running, driving steel bumper Holden that I ever bought like 50 something cars ago.
Yeah, righto. And did it have the turbo LS when you let it go, or that's evolved over time?
6-cylinder, 3 on the tree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just such a weapon cruiser.
The gold HK GDS. you've mentioned that a couple of times. We haven't really dived into it. Give us a bit of a rundown on that car, because that was something that was reasonably special.
Yeah, it was a real nice car. Came from Collie, and I was the third owner of it. Yeah, it was just, I was like, I have too much money tied up in this car and have the other Monaro, have the Torana. I was like, something needs to budge. Like, just interest rates and that all going up more and more. And I was like, something has to budge. I was like, I can't sell the Torana.
Yeah.
I was like, the HG's had that much work put into it and everything. And I was like, something has to budge. So sold that, bought the HK Kingswood to use as a weekend streeter and a lot more affordable kind of thing.
Yeah. So what was the GDS exactly? It was
Inca Gold 186 GDS, all original. The only thing modified on it was I lowered it.
never had a restoration.
No.
Never had to
had
have
battle
paint.
scars.
Yeah. Never had to have a paint job or anything like that. It was just sitting exactly as the general intended.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah, right on. There you go. And a 186 Manaro, most of them would have had that turfed and they'd have a 350 in them, surely.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be many six-banging Manaros kicking around anymore.
Yeah, nah. It came up at the auctions in Welshpool. I went and stopped in there and looked at it, and the auctioneer made the stupid mistake of telling me that the car is from Collie. So I was like, I know heaps of people in Collie, like through Burnouts. Anyway, ended up getting the phone number of the person that old dude that owned it, and called him and called the home phone, and eventually he answered a few days later, and then she yarned with him about Monaros for ages, and then he said to me how, I haven't actually got up to Perth yet to sign the papers, so it's actually still my car. They don't have the right to sell it yet. So I said, so
your eyes lit up at this point.
Yeah. So we did a deal and bypassed the auction, and so I looked at it there on like the Monday, and by the Friday I owned it and went in there and was like, hey, where's my keys?
Picked it up from the auction
they
yard.
They were so dirty because they got no commission out of it.
Yeah. What a ripper story. That's killer.
Yeah, they didn't think it was killer.
Yeah, and old mate would have been pretty happy too, because same thing, he's bypassed the commission, because there'd be a seller's premium as well as a buyer's premium, right?
Yeah, he gave it to me for way less than what they were going to sell it for, so they were very dirty on it. Yeah,
absolutely. So where's that car gone to? Has it sort of stayed within the circle, or is it left captivity?
That's in Canberra in a private car collection now.
Yeah,
It's life in a bubble. The guy's not even really into Holdens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like,
just bought it because it was something special.
Yeah, I was like, at least it's not getting an LS in it.
That is something.
Yeah.
So you've still got the other one, you've still got that now,
yeah?
And you just plan to leave that as is. What's going on with that one as far as driveline? Sorry to dive into your questions.
No, you're right.
But
no, this is good.
I want to know some of this stuff before.
Holden engine.
Yeah.
Holden engine.
My man.
Yeah, always had a soft spot for Holden engine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like we've kind of swerved a whole section of this podcast where we could have gone into how you're a bit of a Holden diehard and all the cars that you've had, but
that's
all right. We could be here all night.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely a Holden engine in that.
Yeah, right. Is it just going to be like a fairly, is it going to be a stock bottom end 5 litre with 284 and a car maker tune, or
black plugs? Yeah, no, just I'd like to do, in the ideal world, I'd do a stock bottom end 304, decent set of heads, hydraulic roller, V2 Vortec, and a T5.
Oh yeah. That's an interesting combo. We were just saying, you don't see a hell of a lot of people doing the centrifugal blown combos anymore.
Look at everyone racing.
Well, everyone goes Harrop or Turbo these days. But yeah, Paul Rappo, man, he loves them.
Yeah,
He
and look
absolutely
at
loves
the
them.
numbers that they're running.
Yep, and you roll into the pits, NA, you make a pass, you make sure, engine's running good, tune's on point. All right, let's just bolt the blower on, add some fuel, and fucking send it.
Yeah.
It's a good solution, eh?
Yeah. Or the thing that I really like about them, especially with a car like that, I could have it fully engineered, regoed with 308 and T5 or VN headed 308 T5.
Yeah.
and EFI, put the blower on. If you do at some point get a yellow sticker, pull the blower off, drive it over the pits, get home, put the blower back on, build a hell wild, tough NA combo, and you get a sticker and you're dead in the water. You're putting up a wanted ad looking for another Holden engine.
Or having to store another stock motor sitting there and go through all the bullshit to go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You probably wouldn't be that hard pressed to get it engineered with a V2. Say if you just put a bit dinner plate pulley on it, like low boost, because obviously it's the 180 kilowatt per ton engineering rule that kind of murders most people. But if you can kind of just detune it to the point where, like it makes the run on the dyno, and then once it's signed off, you just change the pulley,
Well, I think where you'd run into the dramas is the cubic inch per ton rule as well.
Oh, yeah.
So KTG, you're allowed up to 440 cubic inch. But I'm pretty sure if it's boosted, it's like half of the cubic inches again. So 304 would make it would take it out to like 458 or something like that. So you would just go over that.
Right, yeah, okay.
I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So it sounds like we're doing a 253 then.
Yeah.
The swap's easy enough, isn't it, to just avoid it?
Yeah.
Literally, pull it off. It's that easy.
No, it makes sense.
And you're probably not going to get any of that happening anyway. There's no point coming up with a solution for a problem that might not ever arise, hey?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. No, that was a good chat. Nice little deviation there. I like that. What's one tool that you couldn't live without?
5-inch grinder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guard or no guard?
Oh, no guard. Oh, yeah, my mates were building the Torana. Fuck, they just wanted to throw that grinder against the wall. That thing did not stop until the day till the last thing that we did on the car was literally still with a 5-inch grinder. I feel so sorry for them helping me because that's all they heard the whole time.
Yeah.
Are you one that still has to run a corded unit, or have you gone to a lithium battery unit?
No, still I'm all for a cord. It's just the
Unlimited
speed.
power, right?
The speed and power. Yeah. I
once
turn my nose up at people that use battery grinders.
Yeah, we use a battery a hell of a lot, but you can definitely tell the difference, especially once the battery's starting to wind down. Kurt's done it a few times, going, what the fuck is going on? We put another battery in. There it
Jeff,
is.
you remember I'm all about the cord. Obviously being a boilie by trade, you just know you need the guts.
Yeah.
But I think my corded one that I bought in my apprenticeship, my turbo, the good 1400 watt Matabo, which was the one to get. I've had it forever, and it finally give up the ghost. And I thought, I'll try this cordless shit. And when you're cutting 1.6 mil tube or whatever, it's not too bad. But anything over that, you're cutting RHS and heavier wall tube, it's nah, that's not really the move, eh?
No.
Yeah.
Nothing
All
worse
for
than
the
just
cord.
not being able to just plunge through something, eh?
Yeah, nothing worse than getting 3/4 of the way through a cut and then things starts bogging down because you're on 1 bar of battery.
Yeah, I remember doing the 4-link and tubs in my mate Tristan's EB not long ago, roll up to his place, doing it at his. I was like, pass your grinder? And he's like, pass it to me. I've pulled it around. I'm like, where's your grinder, man? I was like, I'm not using that. He's like, oh, that's all I've got. I'm like,
I'm not talking about the prop you use on the app.
yeah, I was like, go to the Navara. I've got my grinder in there.
Nice. What's your favourite power adder? Or we can sort of, there's the loophole of, are you an Aspo fiend?
Nah, I would say a blower, but then a turbo definitely has its place as well. I feel that whether it's a blower, whether it be roots, centrifugal, or a turbo, they all have their place.
Yeah, it's horses for courses.
Yeah, I do want to build a fast blown race car. But at the same time, if I'm building something for drag and drive, that's turbo, 100%.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really muck around with nitrous stuff anymore. I've done that in the past, and it's just too expensive all the time.
Yeah.
Probably,
And
blower.
risky.
Blower. I love mechanical injection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call.
So backwards, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah. That probably almost sort of answers the next question, though. Are you street car or race car?
Street car.
Oh, really? I thought you were in a race car.
No, street car.
Yeah.
You can do so much with them.
Yeah.
Like, as in, I've been convincing all my mates at the moment, for the last God knows how long, with blown skid cars, that I'm like, dude, you have a wild street car. If you want to go do drag challenge, you can do drag challenge.
Yeah.
If it rolls around to motivation, you can do motivation.
It's just the headache of staying compliant.
Well, you don't worry about staying compliant.
But
neither you or I are going to be that way.
but 1 in a million comes up, and then you're going to have to make it compliant.
But
or
what
go
you
race
can
car.
get engineered in WA now is crazy compared to before.
Yeah.
So like my Kingswood, and that'll be full WA engineered and legal, 420 cube small block Chev, United Speed Shop front end, mini tubs, 9-inch, like wild kind of street car, and it's like get pulled over, and apart from it being too loud, it's like all good.
Yeah.
Catch you later.
See you, boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, like getting in use out of cars.
Yeah.
So definitely a fast street cars for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you, mate.
I grew up reading Street Machine, so
Yeah. I love race car. Like, once my SLE's done, I really do want to build a race car, but I don't think I could justify it if I didn't have a tough streeter.
yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah.
What is your ultimate form of motorsport?
Yeah, it'd be drag racing. Yeah,
That's the ultimate for you?
yeah.
Right on. You've got no restrictions and an unlimited budget to plan an event. What's it going to have?
Oh, that is a tough one.
The ultimate event.
It'd definitely be like a power cruise style event, but as a car show. So the events now are very much, apart from SUMMERNATS, that kind of have a criteria.
There's a lot of slappers, is what you're about to say.
Oh, motivation, Jesus Christ. Do you remember back in the day, man? Like,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
there was a strict criteria. Like, you had to send your photos in, and you had to wait a month for them to send a letter back to you going, congratulations.
Yeah.
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 like-
I took the ute that Jeff had when I had it. Shit, what would that have been? 2007-ish?
2006, yeah.
2007, 2008. And I think that was like close to peak
yeah,
for
yeah.
like how good it was. There
That
was
was
so
when they
many
had
cars there. Like the
Yeah.
top paddock was packed out.
All around the top of the speedway was just chockers. Yeah.
But, and just the quality of the cars. And it seemed to still flow better than what it does now. Like,
Yeah, like if you got into motos, you were like,
Yeah.
I'm the man.
yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now you're like, oh yeah, there's one for sale on Marketplace for $250. We'll take that to motivation.
Yeah, weld the diff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And take the back window out and the tail lights out, and we'll
Yeah.
go to motos.
Let's just make a quick bonnet exit exhaust.
my VS Manta, that was a 304 with like all the top end sort of done, and like had a Harrop single plane and stuff on it, and had a Tremec TKO 5-speed and stuff in it. That got knocked back for motos.
Really?
Yeah, with a Harrop and everything on it.
Wow.
Like, got knocked
Back
back.
then
That
too,
wasn't
yeah.
that 2000. That was 2011. So that wasn't.
Wow.
That didn't meet the criteria. An all blacked out Commodore with an air filter out the bonnet wasn't quite there.
Yeah,
They're
right.
cammed up and
They needed something a little bit more special. You needed that. I think that was probably just after the two-tone paint craze.
oh, it was
no,
still
because
yeah.
two-tone. Remember Agitate, the
Yeah,
Commodore,
Agitate,
orange,
yeah.
I think it was orange and purple. Like that
Yeah.
was in its heyday back when like 07-ish, 08, 09.
Yeah,
like,
true,
I don't
yeah.
know, late sort of 2000s.
It was like two-tone paint, 20-inch chromies for the homies.
Yeah,
that
so
was everything. Yeah,
I heard a good one after last motivation. It was a photo of a VT or something with like smashed tail lights and destroy quarter panels, and the caption on it was, "We bagged out all these cammed up Commodores with two-tone killer paint jobs, and were rewarded with bush bashes."
yeah, yeah.
And it's so true. We used to all look at those cammed up Commodores that had like probably like 10 grand spent on paint.
Yeah.
Being like, they don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we got rewarded with a paddock full of clapped out AUs.
Yeah.
I swear, the whole AU thing, it was there was a group of kids on the spectrum that didn't get the joke. You know what I mean? Like that was, it's like, bro, we were all fucking around, and they're like, no, they're actually good. It's like, can't stop.
Yeah. Did they miss the memo?
Yeah. They couldn't sense the sarcasm through the keyboard, man. Because
Yeah.
forums were still a thing, man. Yeah, right. So it'd be a power cruise style event.
With quality.
Yeah. Right on. So that would be obviously like street cruising, track cruising, like roll racing.
Well, I think Power Cruise before was the perfect format.
I would close to
Perth
agree
Power
with you.
Cruise was,
Yeah.
think how much track
It's the
time you got.
ultimate, eh?
Yeah.
But remember, even there, you used
If-
to get a lot of shitters.
Yeah, if you could change the vent, like, and obviously that's a, well, in this case you've got no restrictions and an unlimited budget, but you know, if you were to hold Power Cruise, say now at Carco Raceway, and you could make some changes to the venue layout a little bit, it's impossible to do, obviously, because it's a fucking functioning racetrack. But if you could make a few changes, like move the burnout pad a little bit, move the pits a little bit, and, you know, like if you could do that, I reckon it would be perfect.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I think it's same with a lot of things in WA. We, hence why wanting a tough street car a lot more than ever, because we are so deprived of car events.
Yeah.
Like, we had Gazanats, there was even like Osnats and that at the time at Barbagallo, or at Carco Raceway, and Power Cruise, man. Like, Power Cruise was the one where if you had a tough street car, like, that's the one we all look forward to, and we're like,
Yeah.
that's, you know, that was the big weekend for the year.
Yeah,
you know?
it was.
Like,
It was the big weekend.
Yeah.
It was literally where, I mean, I guess SUMMERNATS is the same for some people, but it's like that once a year that you caught up with that group of dudes. Like, you never saw them or spoke to them, fuck all, the whole rest of the year. But
Well, we
Power-
don't, because we're down here.
Yeah,
You
but-
got to remember, he's in Perth.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, but like even, you know, like we, and you especially, you'd hang out with the guys from Geraldton. It's like you'd meet in the middle
Yeah.
at Carco Raceway, and the conversation would carry on 365 days later like it was 10 minutes ago.
yeah. And I think the other thing as well is that, like, motivation was very much like cars just driving around and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Power Cruise kind of sorted the men from the boys with
100%.
who's actually making power, you know?
Yeah.
For sure. Lucky last question, mate. What is on the top of your automotive bucket list right now? This thing can change. You talk to people like, what's on the top of your bucket list? Oh, it changes weekly. No. Right now.
That's to do drag challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, drag challenge. Basically, what my mate Aaron James did. Drag challenge followed by the bright rod run. To
Oh,
me,
yeah.
to me at the moment, that is like the ultimate trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. That bright rod run. I don't know if you have looked much of
No.
it, but
I have seen it, yeah.
my brother's was there just at the last one, and he has a killer video on YouTube of it that he made, and that looks like nothing else in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, it looks phenomenal.
It does, doesn't it?
And-
Like, you just sit at the pub on the path and just cars cruising. The streets are like everything parked. It's just hotties.
Yeah,
Hotties everywhere,
yeah.
you know?
But yeah, to me, probably the coolest, how I said before, the coolest form of motorsport is drag racing, more specifically drag and drive.
Yeah.
Like, drag and drive stuff to
Because
me.
street car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, even if you if you are racing, like, you do a drag and drive event, and then there's, you know, here we've only really got, you know, drag challenge or the hard ass 1000. There's a couple of small ones in Queensland and that, but you can use your street car for the other 51 weeks of that year.
Yeah.
Like, I just believe in the way that everything is with event insurance and everything. We're going to have less and less car events as time goes on. Just
Yeah.
harder for people to get the insurance, more restrictions on it, and
Just becomes too cost prohibitive as well, because like, yeah, right, we'll insure you as long as you're willing to pay up.
yeah,
You know, like,
yeah. Wild street cars are where it's at.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Man, that's all we got as far as guest questions go. thanks heaps for coming along, man. You picked the hottest day of the year so far to come and do it. Seems to be a thing with us. Was it last year? J-Benz came and he was in here and it was hot as balls as well.
Yeah. That's
We
all
just
right.
seemed to pick
Wasn't too bad.
Nah, that's it. Nah, thanks for coming in, man. It was a really good chat. Like I say, there's so many stories we could have dived into there that we just, I don't know.
There's no restrictions, mate. We'll do this again.
Yeah.
You're never going to stop building cars. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And once you finish your shed and you actually kick off your business and that, mate, we should come up, have a look,
Yeah.
do a bit of a
sounds good.
workshop tour. It'd be fucking wicked.
Yeah, does
Sweet.
sound good.
Man.
Thanks
Bring
for-
another 286 camshaft.
Yeah. Oh, that's probably just a stock regrind, I reckon. But you know, a little bit more lift.
Yeah. Sweet as.
Thanks heaps for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Is there any way that people can get in contact with you if they want to support your business or your program? You're not ready to launch that yet?
Nah, probably about next few months. I'll
Yeah.
make a Instagram page or something. Stampalia Race Engineering.
Right on. We'll keep an eye out for that, guys. Stampalia Race Engineering coming at you in a couple of months, or if you're watching this in a couple of months, probably now. If you'd like to support the channel, guys, you can head to torquehub.com.au, get yourself some merch. We really appreciate it. But you can also support us for $0 just by liking this video, dropping us a comment, and sharing it with your friends. But that's it. We're done for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.